Well, this is the Reverend Michael Dean Vinson, and this is the Everyday Monks podcast, the podcast of St. Benedict's Anglican Church, Reformed Episcopal, and we're coming to you in a live video feed broadcast via Zoom. It's a first for us. I'm looking at my fellow monks here. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Father Michael Templin, how are you? You looking good there in the right corner?
Honor here.
Yeah, bottom left, the Reverend Mark Toombs. Mark?
Good to see you guys.
Great to see you. And of course, in the upper left, Mr. Timothy Wilson.
Doing well. It's good to be on here.
Good to see you, Timothy. Well, guys, this is a first, and I know we're not the first people to try and do this, but it sure feels like it. So I hope that this goes well. I wanted to get everybody together because and explain why we're on video. We decided to try and do a video Zoom podcast because we plan on having some guests with us over the next several podcasts, having some conversations with some people. And many of these people are not local and not able to be with us. So we thought, well, let's give this video Zoom a shot. So really, the main reason for this podcast today is to just make sure that we all know what we're doing. Okay, so I'm assuming that if I don't know what's going on, one of you guys are going to be able to figure this out. So let's just pray that this works out. But before we kind of jump into the short conversation I want to have as a precursor to the next episode, just want to check in with anybody. Anybody got any updates, anything that you'd like to share, anything going on in your life or world, or just generally let me know how you're doing. Because we've come off Holy Week and Easter. I know we all had a busy time. So just anybody doing okay? What's going on?
Yeah, I had a great Holy Week. It was wonderful and busy, as I know y'all's was as well. And it's always one of my favorite times of the year.
Yeah, so the cathedral was good. You guys had some great worship, and
yeah, we just had a fun men's retreat together with three.
That's right, we did. We just went to Camp Crucis in Granbury, Texas. Three of us anyway. Pastor Toombs, of course, was not able to be with us, but that was a good time actually. We had a good group this year, Michael.
We did.
Timothy, what about you? Anything new? Anything going on?
No, plugging away here at the very end of my seminary work. And I think we may have mentioned it last time, but the standing committee gave me the green light, gave me a thumbs up on proceeding with my examinations.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great. And Reverend Toombs over at Redeemer Rockwall, how was your Holy Week and Easter? How did things go for you guys?
It was wonderful. A lot of beautiful things over Holy Week. We had noonday Eucharists for the first time, Monday through Thursday, Tenebrae, followed by Easter Sunday. So last week things slowed down a little bit, and I can already feel it starting to ramp up again this week. So here we go.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you guys, you added some new things this year to the spirituality and worship of the church. I'm glad that it seems like it went well. At St. Benedict's, we were blessed. We had 4 baptisms on Easter Sunday. Praise God for that.
Nice.
Which was great. And, we're just thankful. We've had more baptisms this year than we've had in any single year since we planted the church.
Mm-hmm.
So,
God.
The Lord's up to something. So we're very grateful for that. But, we're not going to do any pipe talk because we're not smoking pipes right now. But I did want to jump into why we're doing a video podcast in advance of next week. So, Pastor Mark, about a month ago, maybe you met for coffee and we talked about an article that you came across.
Yeah.
In First Things that I hadn't read at the time, but it was in the First Things, what is this, in April?
Mm-hmm.
And I had not read it. And you said, hey, did you read that article in First Things? And I said, no, I haven't read it. And what'd you say?
Yeah, I found this opinion piece in First Things that was intriguing. It's called Goldilocks Protestantism by Dr. Brad East, who is an associate professor of theology at Abilene Christian University. So a couple of things caught my eye. One was the fact that he's at Abilene Christian University, which I know of from my Church of Christ days. And that was interesting to see that appear in First Things. And then the content of the opinion piece itself, I found to be very intriguing and thought-provoking.
Yeah. So let me jump in. So, and we're not going to discuss this at length because we're actually going to have a conversation with Dr. East next podcast. That's really why we're making sure we know what the heck we're doing before we try and do that with him. But the very first sentence of this article: imagine a world without Protestantism. So, Mark, what kind of caught your eye? What made you kind of stop and hash this over, and then us have a conversation? Just maybe give the folks out there a little bit of a taste of why we wanted to have a conversation with Dr. East.
Well, the title itself, Goldilocks Protestantism, I mean, it puts you right in that story of Goldilocks and the three bears. And, you know, I meet a lot of people who are sort of trying to figure out which porridge is the best, you know, which bed is the best. And you know, they taste this, they taste that, and then they finally settle on one, and this one's just right. And
Too hard, too soft.
yeah, I was intrigued by the title, and then when I read that first sentence, he had me hooked.
And Michael, you read it. What are some things that kind of jumped out at you, or what are some things you're intrigued about in terms of talking to Dr. East with?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting article. You know, I'm interested in kind of talking to him about his views on, you know, confessional Protestantism and the magisterial Reformation, and see if he can maybe hash out a few things that I might have some question marks about. But I think the overall premise is pretty compelling, especially when he gets into some of the declining rates within, you know, mainline Protestantism, especially in worldwide context.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear his thoughts on Anglicanism as well, because, you know, he lumps them in with the Catholic tradition. So it'd be interesting to kind of see his understanding there.
Yeah, and Mark, we had that kind of conversation, that point that Father Templin brings up, where sometimes these authors or, you know, writers, they don't really know what to do with Anglicanism. I mean, I think we were talking about Brad Littlejohn's book. What was the name of that book? That
Why Protestants Convert.
Yeah, so Why Protestants Convert, right? That's what it's called. Yeah, oh, it's intriguing, and it you know, he makes a pretty good argument for why, but he only has two categories. He has a Roman Catholicism and then everybody else that's not Roman, but Anglican's not distinct, and it's not like, well, maybe there's another option. So I find that to be the case sometimes. So that's a good point, Father Michael. We'll press him on that, but
yeah. Well, and one of the things that Dr. East touches on in this opinion piece is he mentions the magisterial reformers, and that put me back into Littlejohn's book, where Littlejohn and Castaldo talk about the need to recover the magisterial reformation, to find those churches or traditions that are practicing what the magisterial reformers handed down. And I remember when I read that book, I thought, well, where do you go and find that?
Right.
I mean, if it's out there, those places are so few and far between. In a practical sense, it's like they're not out there at all. And so in reading this article and seeing where he positions people coming out of that tradition, I thought it was really interesting as he divides the world into at least the near future world of Christendom into two sides, you know, the Catholic side and then basically the non-Catholic side, but there's no Protestantism in his view. So it's a very interesting opinion piece. I hope people will read it before we meet with Dr. East next week.
Timothy, I know, you've looked at it. I mean, any initial reactions or thoughts?
Well, of course, some things will need to be delineated, clarified, because there are terms that can end up being very squishy, like via media. Between what actually and what are the nuances that you're really talking about there? There are a lot of key differences that we can get into, but one thing that we could probably handle over another is schism over heresy. But they both collide, and where do they collide? And what's to be done about it? What can we come on common ground with, and what do we have to definitely be in schism with?
And I really want to get to know him, and my interest lies in, I want to just really know, like, what's really going on? Like,
Yeah.
what's happening in his mind and in his heart and in his Christianity. Like, why does he see this, and what's compelling this what he wrote? Because I think there's always more to it, and I'm curious to see, kind of flesh it out more with him. Maybe is kind of. I was going to ask you. So, Mark, is there a hot take here? Like, what would you say is the hot take, Dr. East's, in his opinion piece?
Well, I think he is unapologetically realistic about the situation. It's easy for people to read fat books on theology and imagine that if you just read the right books, or if you have the right ideas in your head, then you're going to see these same traditions or the same thing take shape in the world around you. We're seeing the opposite of that, as so many professing Christians are, on one hand, running away from the great tradition. And then you do have a resurgence of younger people, younger men especially, that I think have taken an interest in the older traditions of the church. They're looking for that stability, the authority that comes with it. So I think it's a very interesting opinion piece. And to show up in First Things, of all places, was brilliant. And I'm very happy to have read it. It's given me a lot to talk about and think about with my fellow pastors. It's generated some really good, healthy conversation.
Brother Templin, anything else you're thinking about, or anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I'm looking forward to getting to talk with them and see what the future of Protestantism is. I don't know. I mean, I hope it's not as bleak as, Catholicism and mere evangelicalism, because I do think the middle way, the magisterial Reformation, probably is the most, at least in parts, the most faithful to historic Christianity that we see in the early centuries. And so, if his analysis is true and it is bleak, then we've got a lot of work to do, because I think our traditions are worth saving.
Yeah.
For the sake of the gospel, I should add. So.
That's well said.
Yeah, it's going to be a good conversation. And I'm very thankful that he responded so quickly to our request, an invitation. And I look forward to having a good conversation with him. I think it'll be insightful for everyone.
Yeah.
Well,
and I love it too. It'd be great to have an ACU guy. I spent a lot of my formative summers in Abilene. So.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
What were you doing out there?
Oh, Super Summer and church camp and Hardin Simmons folk, and my first band, we're a little praise and worship band. We even cut a little studio album. It was terrible and shall never surface again, but outside of Abilene. So
can we use it for bumper music on this video?
Oh, no, you don't want this bumper music.
No, so I told you guys to prepare for a drop in our viewership once they saw us. If we throw that bumper music on there, I mean, we might as well just be talking to each other. So minimize losses. Let me, and Timothy, unless there's something you want to say, I want to wrap it up because this is just an introduction, making sure that we know what we were doing on Zoom. I'm still not convinced we are. Anything, Timothy?
Right. No, but I do believe the people who log on with us with this interview, they'll be if they haven't read this article, they'll be interested in some of the Pew research that he's done and some of the statistics that he's got. It is really eye opening. We'll have fun.
Yeah.
Well, let me just finish with the kind of the conclusion of his article. I'm going to read kind of the ending of it as a teaser. So he quotes who's he quoting here?
Bruce McCormack.
Yeah. He says, Bruce McCormack says, if current rates of decline in membership continue, all that will be left by mid-century will be Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, and non-denominational evangelical churches. And then East writes, this is a grave prediction, but its sobriety makes it not just prescient, but practical. Non-Catholic varieties of Christendom are here for good, but Goldilocks Protestantism was always doomed to fail. It presumed too much, relying on a common inheritance, patristic, medieval, and cultural, that was bound to be called into question by future reformers in search of their own style of biblical renewal. In any case, McCormack is right. Whether in the coming decades, magisterial Christians look up or down for friendship and cooperation, they will be living in a world without Protestantism. In truth, they already are. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, well, we're looking forward to our conversation with Dr. East, and we hope that you'll be able to pick up that podcast when it drops in about a week or so. And until then, you can always find past recordings of our podcast at Everyday Monks on Substack and other places where you listen to podcasts. And also, if you're interested, we began putting up the Ruth Bible studies that are led by myself and Pastor Mark. For those interested in studying the book of Esther with us. So until the next time, may God bless you, and we'll see you again on Everyday Monks.